What are some of the things fundamentally that you think are super important to make this thing work?
First of all, is trust and transparency. I've got a saying: never be surprised. I don't ever want to be surprised by something. I'm fine if we have to deal with issues and we'll deal with them together, but don't surprise me. That's number one.
I'm going to look at every single minute we're spending on reporting, and I'm trying to automate it, make it faster, make it better, make it quicker, and then look at making the inputs to that process even better and faster. That's one thing I see missing a lot is people get their report set up, oh, we got the report, job done. And then they never ever look at how can this get improved and get streamlined and get better. $1 billion issue of someone is probably going to take multiple years. This is going to be a long-term relationship, and you got to start building that relationship right away.
What I'd say is, please do these inside your own company. It might seem strange the first time, but it's practice. Like if you're in a job and a profession, what's wrong with turning up and running through scenarios and training? So I'd say get a couple of your team together and just run one of these every month, make it half an hour, stick someone on the hot seat and go for it.
Hi, folks. A quick one before we dive into this week's episode. Our book, The Critical Path Career, How to Advance in Construction and Planning and Scheduling, is out now, and you can order it on Amazon. We'll include a link below. This is a great way to show support for the Beyond Deadlines podcast, and Greg and I have worked extremely hard taking everything we know in our 30 years of experience, plus everything we've picked up from shooting this podcast, and we've tried to pack it into an information-dense book that you can use right away. In the book, we have specific strategies on how to get a raise, how to get a promotion, and find a new job. We include 26 of the best interview questions that we have come across, in addition to 34 specific impact ideas that you can go use on your projects today. We want to thank everyone who's shown us support so far and enjoy this week's episode.
Welcome to Beyond Deadlines, the show where we give you strategies and tactics that you can implement right away. I'm Greg Lawton, and I'm the CEO of an AI schedule management company called Nodes and Links.
My name is Micah Piippo. I'm a planning and scheduling manager for Intel.
Today, before this show, Micah was telling me about how he's interviewed so many people recently and that he thinks he's a big deal. I think the contrary. So today, Micah is in the hot seat.
Yeah, you'll have to vote who did the intro better. Me and Greg were having a debate before the show of who does the intro better. I'm a little biased. I think personally it's me. I don't think people are sold on your British accent.
I also think you do it better, but at the same time, I think that I add flavor.
All right.
Okay.
All right, fair enough.
Right. So you're in the hot seat today. You are a senior scheduling manager that's been parachuted into a project that's just broken ground. Let's say that it's a $1 billion build of a giant statue of whoever's going to win the next presidential election. But it's a complex build where you've got pipes going through it. It's not just concrete, okay? And it's going to be 100 meters tall. This is a big thing. And you've been asked to set up the schedule reporting systems.
Ooh, okay. All right.
How do you do it?
And am I operating as the owner in this scenario, or am I working for the main general contractor?
You are working for the main general contractor.
Okay. So the first place I would start, and you said we've already broke ground, so we have design.
The first shovel just hit the ground as you walked on site. Okay. So you do have design. Yeah.
No. Is it all the way done, or is it still in progress?
Let's say it's all the way done because we know who the president is. And you just, you take a picture of their face and you make it 100 meters tall.
Simple as that. Simple as that. The first place I would start is with the owner. And it would be with I'll call it an informal conversation. I'll just start out with the owner, just sitting down. Hey, what do you typically look for scheduling? Let's have a chat. What are plannings? What are some of your pain points on the previous projects? Just to get to know them, to kind of start building this relationship. $1 billion, 100-meter statue of someone is probably going to take multiple years. So this is going to be a long-term relationship, and you got to start building that relationship right away. That would probably be one of my first steps. And then after that, I'm going to, get into the actual paperwork. Where's the contract? What are they requiring? Where's the specifications? Do you have any previous examples? What can I start to look at to see and scope out what this machine is going to look like? And then from there, I'm going to probably take all that information and start to build out what my team is going to look like based on the budget that I'm given.
Okay, cool. So from that description, you've only got one stakeholder, which, is very common across the world's projects. People only have one stakeholder to report to. Or is it? Now let's say the construction manager's like, but Micah, you totally forgot about me. And the contracts manager's like, Micah, you totally forgot about me. How do you also set up a system that's for the internal stakeholders that doesn't massively increase the overhead?
I can see you were very upset about my intro comment because you're coming at me right away. Making this seat hot. When you're working with your internal team, and I guess I kind of just glossed over that as part of the process, you'd be understanding because that's a new team that you're also forming. And I just kind of, in my brain, I just rinsed over like maybe I already knew these people, but let's say they're brand new. You're going to have to understand them as well too, because you're going to be reporting out to them and not operating as, like a third party or whatever. So it's going to be very much similar to the process. But to me, that is a relationship less based on requirements because there won't be any, more built on trust and understanding. And so I would probably take that proposal I would build out with the owner client. And I would say, listen, based on what I'm looking at, this $1 billion project, this is where we're going to ramp. We're probably going to need 3 to 4 schedulers over this time period. And we're going to need a couple, data analysts, and we're going to need this software package. This will get us, this sort of detailed reporting that will satisfy your needs and create the integrations and connections you have, but then also satisfy the owner's needs. And I would put that together in a nice, tidy presentation and give it to them and have a nice conversation with them and see where they're falling and what, where their understandings are, while also capturing their pain points, right? The procurement team is going to want to know specific construction dates. The construction manager is going to want to know critical contractual milestone dates. And then they're also probably going to be a component of sub-level planning that we're going to have to set up to enable that kind of roll up of data to create our reports and analysis.
So you mentioned something there that, I'm a big fan of specificity, and you mentioned something there, which was I'm probably going to require 3 to 4 schedulers for $1 billion project. What are your rules of thumb here? Obviously, you have to know the exact scope of work. You need to know what the effort to deliver the scope of work is, etc. But do you have any rules of thumb that you use in your mind about what you'd need to set up a reporting operation?
It's reporting. I mean, I guess I'm setting up the scheduling, which is enabling the reporting. Do you know what I mean? And so I'm going to take it from that angle. I think if I was just going reporting, it's going to be too nebulous. But how I would typically look at it, and there's no, great mathematic. It's exact many activities and that many dollars. You need this many schedule because you said there's a lot of things going on here. There's complexity, there's ramp of work, there's need. But, how I would think about it is, I don't know, I would probably say for every 50 to $100 million, that's a scheduler potentially, and then after a while you get some economies of scale. So that's, whenever I look at these things, I always ask for more than I need, because you're probably going to go in and they're going to have a negotiation on, hey, I need 8, 10 people to do this job. Well, you only have budget for 7. Cool, I'll take 7. Versus if I had to went in and been like, I need 3 people to do this job, and I'll add 3 on later. You may never get the budget for it. So I'd always ask for more. And then what I'm really looking at is just complexity and tasks that we need to achieve, and then slotting the right people in the right, buckets. If I need someone to be doing, boots on the ground, lean pole planning training with the subcontractors, that's a very different resource than someone who, is just creating high level owners report packages. And that's where it's like, it's hard to answer. But I think as you start to lay out your scope and your needs and what you'll be achieving, you should be able to get a good range of what you're thinking, and again, I like that 50 to 100 million roughly per scheduler type range to start out with. That's probably going to leave you on a little bit of the high side. Then you can kind of trim back and strategically look at where you can, best fit people in.
Got it. Okay. This is the hot seat. So we're going to play a little game. I've just decided I'm going to rewind back to the start of this conversation. Yeah, I want to play a game here. And in the start of this conversation,
Halloween is over, bro. Halloween's over. We got to move on.
I tell you what, I was over in America last week. The Americans do Halloween something serious.
It has gotten to new levels. I don't want to go on a tangent, but compared to what I grew up, Greg, you go into Home Depot, which is like home renovation place. They sell the lumber and the nails and the screws, and there's like 25-foot vampires you can buy and just walk out the store with that day. And I don't get it. I fundamentally don't understand it. But let's move on before we start losing people.
Where do you store that stuff? Okay, putting that aside, right? We're hot seating, right? We're hot seating. At the start of the conversation, you said I would have an informal conversation with the owner. Cool. I'm the owner. Informal conversation me.
Hey, Greg, how's it going today? I love the project we're doing. I'm so excited to be on it. This is going to be such a lasting generational impact. I just want to sit down today and kind of pick your brain for a couple minutes. Are you okay with that?
Sure, let's go for it.
It'd be pretty funny if you said no. I'd be like, great, job done. On your last couple of projects, planning and scheduling, roughly, what are you looking for? What are some of the things, just kind of fundamentally that you think are super important to make this thing work?
Okay, well, first of all is trust and transparency. I've got a saying: never be surprised. I don't ever want to be surprised by something. I'm fine if we have to deal with issues and we'll deal with them together, but don't surprise me. That's number one. Number two is that this has to be built before the midterm elections, because this is, the new president's face. By the time the midterm elections come down, popularity might have tanked, who knows? So predictability of delivery, sky high. Number three is I'm a very busy person. I've got golf courses to go to. I'm working on my backswing right now. I'm not going to be in the office much. I don't want to be getting 200-page PowerPoint packs. Just tell me where the goddamn project is up to, and if we've got any challenges, and what we need to do to work through them together.
That's super helpful. So you mentioned trust, you mentioned transparency, and it seems to me that based on your golf course comment, you're looking for what I'll say conciseness, being concise. On your previous projects, is there any specific examples looking at those three where that worked really well? And how did that relationship work out?
Yeah, actually, I tell you what, two of them weren't very good, but one of them was really, really good. I'm actually still friends with Chuck. Chuck's a good American name. Chuck. I'm still friends with Chuck today. I'm on a roll today.
Chuck.
And Sean's another very strong American name. But we'll go with Chuck. So I'm still friends with Chuck. He actually just had my phone number, my mobile number, and he would actually just give me a 5-minute call every week. He'd follow up with the email and all of the data, and I could just look at it in my email inbox, and I could go through it. He'd also email it with this little video that was really cool. It was like 2 or 3 minutes. I could watch it on 2 times speed and just get the kind of gist. But the 5-minute phone call, there's certain things you can't put in writing, or it's more difficult to put in writing. And I actually appreciate you just being able to openly have a call. And he'd ask me to push on other suppliers. I'd ask him or set expectations, and those would be passed on. I think that helped a lot.
That's great feedback, and it's something we can definitely get set up on this project, because I think that's how we'll be able to build trust faster, is just having those 5-minute conversations and and us providing you the data you want to see. When you think about those scenarios that didn't go well, what broke down in those cases? What started to kind of tear the fabric of those relationships?
What I'd say here is that those relationships were very standoffish. Like, we talked about collaboration during awarding the contract, and then it was almost to the letter of the contract from day one, as opposed to the spirit of the contract. And it wasn't that, the contract said you'll provide reporting on a period basis, etc. And actually, it was the opposite. Like, I couldn't actually just call someone on the schedule. I couldn't have an open conversation. It was very much, they didn't want to reveal anything of their hand, because from day one they were prepping up to prepare for a court case or something like that. So I have to say, within the first couple of weeks, trust was completely shot. And actually, internally, we were just having conversations about how to remove them from the project and find someone we actually could trust, even though they were delivering on time.
That's great. I think I've gotten a ton of awesome feedback from this conversation. I think one thing that would help us out to start moving along quicker, I know there's NDAs and other things like that in place, but if there's any sort of examples that you could send me of what good looks like and what you're expecting, that would help us get ahead faster and start providing you what we want. I'll go ahead and I can set up just a regular 30-minute one-on-one sync with you to get started with. It's a bit of a time investment, I know, but we can always drop it down as it gets going. Once we get this ball rolling, I don't think we'll be chatting once a week. I think we'll be going to more what you asked for, on the 5-minute sync and the informal. I'm going to go away with my team and start looking how we can communicate with you effectively. On previous clients and other jobs, we kind of have to do a little bit of a tribunal where I have to, sync with the PM and the construction manager, procurement manager, and we need to all be on the same page. But we can figure that out on our end. I just want to let you know that's going to take a little bit of time to change for us, because we usually typically don't operate that way. But if you have anything else for me, if you need any help, feel free. You have my number, 555-5555-5555. Feel free to give me a call.
There's someone after this episode that's just going to be getting lots of texts about schedule analysis and reporting. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah. So that's interesting when you're talking about it, and I tried to highlight it in my answer, and I see this a lot with owner and GC relationships, where the schedule is representing a large group of people, and oftentimes the scheduling manager or whoever's managing the schedule sometimes isn't given the authority to speak for the schedule. Then it becomes a much then you always are diverting to the hour and a half, 2-hour schedule status update meeting, because I got to have the project manager in the room that is delivering this scope of work, because only he or she can speak to it. Man, that just can drag some of that, just energy down and efficiencies down. And it's good. Don't get me wrong. Like getting aligned and having everybody there is really good. But I think what you're asking for and what that meeting's delivering are two totally different things.
Yeah, and we might want to just be absolutely clear here. In this hypothetical situation, I'd say that it's a charisma-driven owner. So I was hypothesizing someone who's much more about, can I trust that I can work with these people? Which the private sector, less experienced clients behave, in my experience, more like that, because they're like, I'm not an expert in projects, so I'm trying to get someone who is. It's not the opportunity to succeed. It's more I don't want to fail, that kind of situation. If you're getting into the more regimented, probably more government type projects, which are much more, the projects are a unique endeavor, but the project control and management operations are very repeated, and they've got their guidance documentation. It actually might be more the 2-hour review meetings and those kinds of things.
Yeah. No, I mean, working on small projects, it in smaller operations, you usually get that sort of, let's have phone calls, let's have trust. And then as you start to transition over to large scale, like this government work that the government operator is not going to say what you just said. They're going to say, we have this standard 400-page
Yeah.
binder report that needs to be filled out and
Yeah.
submitted every single month. But on that, I would say, going a little bit back to reporting, what came to mind talking to you is I'm taking away from your conversation, and then I'm going to try and set up that reporting. And then for me, I am just going to try and operationalize that down to a science. What I mean by that is I'm going to look at every single minute we're spending on reporting, and I'm trying to automate it, make it faster, make it better, make it quicker, and then look at making the inputs to that process even better and faster. That's one thing I see missing a lot is people get their report set up. Oh, we got the report, job done. And then they never ever look at, how can this get improved and get streamlined and get better? Because if you don't have those conversations we just had with the owner, a lot of times the owners just have these requirements they throw over the fence and they just stay as requirements. And no one goes in and be like, hey, do you need that 20-page narrative? Is anybody reading that? And they're just like, oh, no one is. And you've been spending 3 hours per month writing it. Oops.
That's actually a very, very, very important thing. By the way, I actually get requests from investors and venture capitalists all the time, and that's the most powerful thing, which is you sit on it for a day or two, and then you ask them, "Did you actually need that?" And genuinely, 60% of the time, they will, "Oh no, I didn't need it." And it's like you could have been killing yourself till 2 a.m. trying to do it, and it's like there's no point. Okay, I've got two final questions, then we'll wrap up.
Fire away.
You're in the hot seat. On that scenario, what did you do wrong, or what could you improve if we didn't record this just off the cuff? If we actually sat down and thought about it.
You're talking specifically the conversation with the owner?
Specifically the conversation. And by the way, an answer of I can't think of anything right now is fine, but it's the hot seat. So, you did it live. Do you think there's anything that could have been improved?
So a more detailed kind of concrete follow-up, I think closing out would have probably been a little bit more beneficial. And I'm sure there's a couple other questions I could have thrown in there. Just for the sake of the episode, to me, I would have wanted to stretch that conversation out to at least a half hour. And I probably would have started out with something like a get to know you question. Like, oh, hey, Greg, what'd you do for Halloween? Do you have your kids trick-or-treating? Just to kind of build some rapport. I probably would have added in a couple extra questions, to typically around more specifics. Do you have the federal guidelines for this and that after we kind of get through some of those softball questions? And then I would have followed up probably with some more, detailed, concrete. Okay, well, when we meet next Friday, if you provide me those guidelines, I'll be able to provide you this. Let's have set up that meeting and go from there. That'd probably be mine. What are your thoughts?
Actually, I was going to say the exact same thing, which was, by the way, that's why you're worth the big bucks. I'll give you a compliment. That's why you're worth the big bucks. Number one is in the Western world, you definitely have to have an element of small talk or kind of what I'd call sense making and emotiveness. So understanding how the person operates. My character in that environment was much more emotive with their language, direct, less process driven, and it was more about a feeling as opposed to pure logic and governance details. So that's number one. And by the way, that's not always true across the world, is it? The length of time that you have to do that socialize changes. In the Middle East, it's like 90% of the conversation. And then I was going to say specificity and the follow-up. The follow-up to me is a very, very important thing. A lot of people understand that, and a lot of people send follow-ups quickly and appropriately, but a lot of people send follow-ups that are far too long.
Ooh, yeah.
It's it has to be less than 100 words.
Just a couple bullet points, folks.
Yeah.
The other one on the follow-up is you're setting the tone of the relationship. So right there, if you've told somebody, you're like, hey, I'll send you this, you'll send me that, you're setting the tone now of the relationship. If I was like, hey, I'm going to get with my team and send you back that proposal where, you'll only have one point of contact for the schedule and this is how it's going to work. And I said, I'll commit to that by Friday. That is your first, are you a person who delivers and commits and delivers to stuff? opportunity. And if you drop the ball on that, you're just starting to kind of, slowly chisel away at that relationship, which you mentioned at the very beginning, built on trust, And so that's one too with the follow up. Nice, concise, tidy bolos, but then actually do the follow up work.
Mm-hmm. And you can get AI tools now that actually do the whole thing for you. So we've actually just implemented one in Notes and Links where it's everyone's got these recording bots, but the recording bot will actually draft the entire email to follow up based on the conversation, and it'll draft all of the summary and action points for our internal systems and send it to the right team, which is crazy. But it's crazy to me. Like
Yeah.
I love when we're the age that
Oh,
we're
I know.
living in.
And for people who don't have the funds for that, you can hack these together real easily using your favorite, AI chatbot. So a lot of phones now have transcript recorders.
Mhm.
Obviously, let the person know that you're recording them.
Yeah, you legally have to do that.
Yeah,
You have to ask if they're
lawyer
okay with
cat,
you recording.
lawyer cat moment. But then you can take that transcript and build your own automations where you just drop the transcript into ChatGPT. It'll type up the notes for you. You'll say, "Does this look accurate?" You hit yes, and then it'll come through. And very, very simple to build, but it's getting very powerful. And it's it's weird. It's kind of, we're getting to this point of time where you want to be able to focus on execution and impact, and it's becoming more and more your ability to lower the distractions down, and like notes, the AIs, all this stuff that used to just
Mhm.
take forever. You can really put in some good work, and then you're just focused right on execution. It's awesome.
Beautiful. Okay, I said I had two final questions. I'll do my last one, which is for anyone listening, do you have a piece of advice which is where they could go and find out more information about this, like a gem of a data source or a gem of a person? I don't know.
Ooh, that's a great question. See, this is a tough one. This is one where I haven't seen anyone really. There's a ton of people who create reports, and there's some information on how you set up a scheduling management system. But I haven't seen a source that lays this out where, hey, blog post idea coming in hot.
There
Uh,
you go.
yeah, I mean, I just don't. I'm going to say no, I don't. Sorry, folks. Wait for a couple weeks and I will drop a gem for you. Because because we're kind of crossing in and out of different sorts of areas. And I just haven't seen anyone pull it all together. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wish, I can go on YouTube, and this, I'm stepping outside of the podcast now. It's just, I can go on YouTube and I can
Subscribe
find
to
a
the Be On Your
video
Bike
about how
podcast.
to look after a very specific kind of plant. It's like down to that level of accuracy. It's like, I don't know, a Jamaican cactus. I don't even know if that exists. But it's like, how do I water this appropriately? And there'll be a video on that.
Yeah.
And the thing that I find a challenge is, okay, schedule management with a client. Where's that? It's just nowhere. It's
Yeah.
because these are obviously private calls.
Yeah. You can
It's
find the
so difficult.
technical. Here's how to create a one-page Primavera P6 report. Here's how to adjust the margins in it. Here's how to take your
Yeah.
Primavera P6 data and put it into Excel. The tactics, or I wouldn't say the tactics, but the data manipulation and the data analysis techniques are all there. Taking that information that you've pumped out, managing a relationship, and providing that data across the project. I don't. I mean, if somebody knows something, feel free to share when we post this episode. Love to hear it. Love to see it.
Yeah, if someone shares that, I'll pump it as well because that is something that people should know exists.
Yes,
Beautiful.
I would agree.
Okay, then with that, we can start wrapping up. Micah, any final thoughts?
Any final thoughts? It felt good to get back on the hot seat. It's been a minute. And so I liked being on the hot seat. For people listening out there, reflecting back on this conversation, even if you're in a position where you're just taking care of like a small bit of what we talked about, I think understanding that broader process and how you play into it will help you fundamentally grow in your career. So even if you're just the person who is doing, one of those schedulers that were hired, that was taking care of it, as you start to zoom out and look at what you're doing in totality, It will always help you look at what's the next thing you can add on to help elevate your career, or, to get better at this or that.
Beautiful. And I'm going to add a final thought as well, which is it's been a minute since we've done the hot seat kind of thing. You and I have just been traveling around this year and doing a lot of interviews with other people. God, I forgot how, one, enjoyable, and two, difficult it is. It's actually quite difficult. Like, we don't sit down for 2 hours and plan these out. We jump on the call, Mike has a coffee, and we say, what shall we, what are we interested in today? And then 2 minutes later, we jump in and go. What I'd say is, please do these inside your own company. It might seem strange the first time, but like it's practice. Like, if you were to do sports, you turn up to training. If you're doing football, hockey, gymnastics, CrossFit, whatever, you turn up to training and train. If you're in a job and a profession, what's wrong with turning up and running through scenarios and training? That's really what exams are. Exams are, here's some information, you learn it, and then you're trying to train for something in the real world. So I'd say get a couple of your team together and just run one of these every month, make it half an hour, stick someone on the hot seat and go for it.
Great idea.
Okay, beautiful. With that, we'll finish there. Thank you so much for listening, watching, wherever you're consuming this content. If you liked Micah getting back in the hot seat, let us know and we'll do more of it. If you also think correctly that I did a better intro than Micah, feel free to let us know that also. If you were wrong and think that that's not true and Micah does better intros, then please keep it to yourself. And with that, have a fantastic rest of the week.